Hey everyone, Dominic here again with the second episode of Navigating Star Atlas. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I also want to give a huge shout out to you guys for enjoying and giving love to the first episode. We really appreciate that. So we're going to keep doing these. Today we're going to go a little bit more specific and we're going to be talking about character customization. And with me to talk about character customization is character art director Hano. Hano, how you doing, man? Can you just let us know who you are and what you do for Star Atlas?
Hey, what's up, Dom? My name is Hanno Hagedorn. I'm the character art director at Star Atlas, directing character art. That's what I'm doing here. I've been in the industry for like a good 23 years, worked on a couple small projects such as Crisis, Uncharted, Jedi, and been at Star Atlas for a good 2 years now. And it's been a blast.
Sure, man. I'm sure, and I think I speak for the whole team when I say that we're completely lucky to have you, man. You're an absolute legend. Anyways, I'm really excited to talk to you today because character skins and skins in general in Star Atlas are one of my favorite topics to talk about because of how vast the customization options are. Like you could customize everything and anything basically, not literally, of course, but basically. Anyways, first question I really want to get into here with you is what is customization even going to be like in Star Atlas?
So we want to give the player the ability to customize the characters to their liking. Now, what does it really entail? That goes from changing patterns to colors, to detail maps, and so on, to face augmentations, to war paints, to lights. It's quite a vast spectrum that we want to hand over to the player, and overall our goal is to give the players pretty much as many capabilities as we have as developers.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you see in the trailer, that you've seen in the trailers, are options that we can modify, and we want to hand that over to the player so they can basically do the same. Now, little disclaimer: it's still all work in progress. So some things might happen, some things might not happen. So take it all with a little bit grain of salt. But our intention is to really give all that power to the player, as silly as it sounds.
No, I think that's really powerful, man. That's really powerful. When you said like we want the player to have the same options as we as the devs have. That's awesome, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, all the characters that you've seen in the last trailers are part of the customization system, and basically all those characters can be made by the players. And our system is constantly growing, getting bigger and bigger. For like right now, we focused a lot on the base suits, on the base helmets. We show some augmentations on the faces that can be chosen. On the Maurice, goes a little bit deeper. There's like some war paint. On the Aster, you can see some lights. I don't want to get too far ahead.
Yeah.
Because we gotta talk about all that stuff later on.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about our customization and how we do it is how different we do it. Traditional game studios, they sell the skins, you buy the skins, you put on the skin. That's it. But with Star Atlas, we're not selling you the skin. We're letting you create your skin by playing the game. So if you want to make a red, white, and green skin, you would have to go out, play the game, gather the resources to get those colors, and then make the skin that you want. And I think it's incredible. It's such a difference between the way we're doing it and the way most other game studios are doing it. So I'm really excited for this. It's a really good conversation. I'm so happy that we're here talking about it.
Yeah, as the baseline, we're gonna give the players skins that go very hand in hand with the overall tone and design of the species, that follow the color spectrum. And on the mods, that's a lot more grays and blacks, for example, a little bit toned down. But then the player can go in and choose any color they want, and they can go as simple and complex and stylish or garish as they want to, and make their characters unique. And that goes from basic colors that can be found, can be earned, can be won. There's going to be multiple ways to acquire colors, to the color layouts, On the characters themselves, there's going to be a multitude of those that can be chosen. To just give the player easy access to as many options as we can and create very interesting looks.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So leading into my next question here, what can we customize in Star Atlas when it comes to characters, of course?
Depends on the species. Each species has like a little bit of a different spin. For the mud characters, it's going to be more heavy on color paint jobs and sponsors. On the Marines, it's going to be more on war paints, on earthy tones, at least by default. There's going to be some more elements that we haven't shown yet that they're still to come. on the Aster, it's going to be a lot of the lights. It's going to be like literally the paint jobs on them, from crazy glossy car paint to matte paint to patinas and stuff. Like a nice spectrum of more metallic flavors in that regard. And so each species is going to have like their own little twist on customization and the strong points that really play into their overall designs.
That's really cool, and I'm sure I know we're gonna talk about this in a little bit here. Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. How about we? So let's get into it. I want to go specifically into some characters now, because I know with the 2.2 release that we have coming next year, there's going to be a couple of different characters that people are going to be able to play that are new. The first one being, you've kind of already touched on it a little bit, which is like the mud human racers. So you've already touched on that there's going to be tiers, and that there's going to be a mud human racer. But can you touch on maybe a little bit about the mud human racer? And we'll have some like mud human racer footage playing right now for everyone at home who's watching, so you can get a real grasp of kind of what he's talking about. But yeah, can you just talk a little bit about the mud human racer that's going to be coming out like early next year?
Yeah, the MUTs are in general more leaning on traditional human designs to some degree. Obviously, very sci-fi, but also militaristic. The tiers we've shown right now are, again, the lower tier ones, the more basic ones, and they're just kind of going to go from there. The interesting bit about the MUTs is basically their uniforms and the helmets by themselves, without any patterns on it, are almost like a clean canvas. So that allows us to add a lot of crazy patterns and color schemes on top of them, because there's no geometry in the way that would elsewise fight with those patterns. And I only can say like that there's more to come. Stay tuned.
No, that's always good to hear, man. Stay tuned. There's more to come. Yeah,
stay really tuned.
Cool. Yeah.
But it kind of goes back to like the base shapes are rather simple. It's a little bit of a hard sell in the beginning. People are like, it's just like a blank canvas. Like, no. Wait for it. Like once the colors come on, patterns come on, they get a lot more interesting. The MUTs are also very sponsor focused. Right now, we only have a handful of sponsors. We're going to be adding a lot more of them. We're looking to implement as many brands as we have in the game into sponsors. A couple things thrown around were like Puna Pies and Astor Brew and such things. No, they might or might not happen, but expect brands of that kind of similarity like to pop up as sponsors. On top of that, obviously, all the ships. So you're going to have like big, bold pattern sponsors that you can choose and customize. Or if you want to completely not use at all, that's also an option. But yeah, that's like one of the big things for the MUT, that the overall color patterns and coloring can be hugely customized, because they basically work as some degree of like a blank canvas. On top of that, cool visors from
they're so cool.
Glossy ones to reflective ones, transparent ones with decals on there, sponsors on there, and every element can be customized.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because over the last few days, we've been going through these customization options, specifically for the mud helmet. And I kid you guys not, there was like 9 different things you can customize. For the helmet specifically, there's like 4 different colors. You can change the color of the visor. You can change the material of the visor. You can even change the padding in the helmet, and you can give the helmet sponsors. And of course, we're gonna have some footage playing for that too, because it's crazy. And you guys are doing some crazy work with the helmets. The customization is really cool. And I genuinely think when people can customize those helmets in game, they're going to be spending hours and hours and hours because there's so many different colors, there's so many different things to customize. And like I said, the beauty of this is that you're playing the game for these colors, and then you're directly benefiting from the work you put into the game from a customization standpoint anyway. Yeah.
Trust me, I spend a lot of hours customizing the characters myself.
Yeah.
Or I was like, just create a new skin, drop it in, and you're like, man, you can try this and this and this, and then someone else comes along, tries different colors. You're like, it looks really good, actually. I should have done that. And how customization systems work, kind of, but the beauty really is because you can change any kind of color. You can go from big, bold neon colors to pulled back pastel colors. Very simple, completely extravagant. You can have like metal tones in there, plastic tones. It's surprisingly developer close what we want to hand to the player. It's actually like really close to what we use internally. So yeah, go and have some fun with it.
Yeah, man. And I know you don't have probably an exact number for me, but we've talked about this before, and with the crazy amount of customization options that you have just for a helmet and a character, if you had to guess the number of combinations that a player could come up with for their own given skin color scheme, what would you say the number was?
We straight up gave up counting. That's when we started, it was like, yeah, it's like we're like at 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, million, and now it's just exponents. It's I mean, certain colors will always be more similar, and there's like a perceived amount of variations, but like the true pure numbers we have behind that by now, even at this early stage, is getting so bananas.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot.
I mean, it's beautiful, man. I keep talking about this, but the crazy customization options that you're gonna have are, like you said, bananas. I'll use your word, bananas. It's bananas. Anyways, I could spend 2 hours on just the mud helmets because I think they're so
and
cool.
Feel free to like show some skins. All these ones can be completely customized. Like the players will be able to choose all these colors themselves, go through all that stuff. I'm really looking forward for people to come up with their own skins, own variants. That straight up has been one of the most enjoyable things. Seeing people just like jump in and do something you did not expect and just run with it.
Yeah, and I'm sure people are going to even cut because the customization options are so vast. There's going to start being careers of people who they play the game to create skins and sell them to other players or do whatever they want with the skins, you know? So I think that's going to also be very beautiful. It's just there's so many different ways to play Star Atlas, and maybe customization is the way you want to play Star Atlas. Think of it as like, I don't know, like Minecraft, you're creating something. I know it's not apples and oranges, you know, but I still think it's really cool is what I'm trying to say.
On the mod, we're also going to have a bunch of facial customization. Granted, the facial models and textures right now are still a bit pulled back, but we keep on adding more and more face augmentations. You guys seen some of them. One of our artists, Ivan, based on Vitaly's design, just did like the skull face mask, which was supposed to be a one-off, but it just feeds in the system and now going to be available to everyone. And we're going to have a whole bunch of these ones, from big, bold patterns on the face, augmentations, tattoos, and whatnot, to very subtle ones that can be completely customized. So even though a big focus so far has been on the suits and helmets, because that's the big readability thing that you're going to see the most, we're not forgetting about the faces. They're also going to be a part. We're going to get into details a little bit later with them, though.
Yeah. Diversity is going to definitely be there as well, right?
Yes. Just you will be able to pick like any kind of person you want to be. Just a matter of time, because it's quite some work to get them all implemented and working.
Yeah.
The awesome thing is we're now at a stage where we're starting to get a really strong compounding effect, where the more we add, it's not just like for one character, it works for all of them. We add one thing to a human, it's going to be available to all humans. It doesn't sound like that much initially, but it really builds up and adds a lot momentum to the whole development process.
Dude, I'm sure, man. I'm sure. Before we move on to the next character, do you anything else on Muds?
No, that's it.
Okay. Cool. So we talked about this a little bit in the earlier stages of this episode, but there's going to be a few different new characters that people will be able to enjoy in R2.2, which is coming early to mid next year ish. We'll see. So the next one that I want to talk a little bit about is Maurice, which is part of the Oni faction, the best faction, and my faction. So can you talk a little bit about Maurice, which are basically just aliens? Can you talk a little bit about the customization options where we're at right now? Maybe a little bit of sneak peek, show a little bit a little thing or two here. But yeah, let us know, man.
Yeah, the Maurice. For the Maurice, we choose a slightly different path of customization. Of course, going to be all the basic colors. Instead of sponsors, they're going to have a lot of war paints that you can choose and customize. In the last trailer, yeah, you can have war paints on your body, on your face. We shown a very strong one that was like half the face was completely war paint with different patterns in there. Now that's going to be like a more special one. But that shows kind of the extent to where we're going. There's going to be different war paints on the head tails. So from the player view, third person, you're going to be able to see that. The outfits themselves are overall more leather based and metal based, and that will carry through the different tiers. Now, talking about tiers, one thing that's very important to know: the amount of head tails will vary with the amount of tiers.
Oh,
So,
really? Wow. So like tier
yes,
one head tail, tier 5, like 1,000 head tails, or how many head tails gonna have, man?
almost. But tier 0, one head tail, really basic.
Yeah.
From tier 2 on, we're gonna have the main head tail, 2 extra ones, and so on. I don't want to give away too much, but
Okay.
expect for things to be a lot closer to the early concept that you've seen. Like that is definitely our goal to get the whole way around there. So yeah, it's important for us that we have more simpler characters in the beginning, and that you can spot someone that is a tier 5 across half the map. They're visibly different. They have like more head tails, more gear on them, bolder materials on there. So it's not just if you're like in the menus and you look really close and you're like, this might be tier 5. No. We want to make sure you can see that from far away and it's really readable. And if you see someone that has more head tails, like, man, that's badass.
You see someone with like 10 head tail or 5 head tails, and you're like, okay, I'm not messing with that guy. No way, Jose.
Exactly. Right now, it's all work in progress. It's got to take a minute for you guys to really like see all that stuff in the game, but be patient. We have the stuff working locally.
There's so many things people haven't seen with the characters, Hana. So many things, man.
No.
I can't wait. I even know, like, right now, there's things with Maurice that we're not talking about purposefully, but, there's some really cool things on the horizon for Maurice.
There's more to come. Dude, straight up, it's daunting. This project is so close to the community, which is really rare. Like, usually on most projects, you just kind of pile up all that content for, like, multiple years to show it all at once. And we're as soon as we have something we feel good about and comfortable, even if it's still work in progress. And trust me, like some of the things we're like, man, this is still too early.
Yeah.
and you're like, no, objectively, this is good for the community. Let's show it. But the team knows how much work is still out there.
Yeah.
And we're still excited to show it to people. So there's a lot more to come because we're very, very open with our progress.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to that, right? Like, our community absolutely loves seeing these like early looks at things, but some people are like, oh, where's this, or this doesn't look good, and then you're like, no, we're still working on it. Hold on.
You're sitting there looking at your schedules, like, yep, it's coming up there and there.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, but I do hope you guys enjoy seeing those sneak peeks because it's worth it. They love it. The team loves showing it. They love showing off their work. So it's really cool stuff. From Maurice, still one thing that we haven't touched on yet is the visor. The visor is insane, Hano. Like the visors look crazy good. We're definitely gonna have something showing right now for the visors because the visors are looking fantastic. I kind of want to know, because the visor looks different from Mud to Marie's, obviously. What was like the distinction that you made, or the differences that you made between those two visors?
So on the early concepts that Joao did for the Maries, there were like holograms in there,
Oh wow,
and we wanted to just kind of go back to that and re-add that. In the trailer we showed like a couple months ago, we didn't have them. They looked really basic. They were functional, but just like very, very basic. And like, hey, for for the Breakpoint demo, we want to show something that's nice, and the guys just jammed on it within a couple of days. Had the whole thing working, setting up the material, setting up the shaders, um, setting up all the patterns and that stuff. Like big shout out goes to LXA and to Wow, who just like busted through that.
crazy good.
And a big thing for us was to make sure it looks like a hologram. So it's not just kind of like painted on and has some depth to it. It's not super complicated behind the scenes. Actually, it's pretty straightforward, but the effect works really well. So like every visor has like depth on the patterns, and you can choose the patterns in the game. You can choose the colors on them. You can have gradients on there that if the camera turns, the outside, for example, can be green while the inside is red, and vice versa. And I think we shown like a rainbow one where you can have like rainbow colors on there, and all that stuff is again completely customizable. If you want to have like a basic color, simplest design, you can do that. If you want to go all out and be like a rainbow warrior, you can do that as well.
So we're not just gonna be having solid colors. We're gonna have gradients as well. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes, yes.
That's
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
that is actually like a really big part of our customization system. We don't just have simple colors. Every color is technically a gradient. The simplest gradient is just from like a basic tone to like a darker version.
Mm-hmm.
So like from like a red to like a dark red. And that means you can have a gradient on the character, either in terms of like damages or what's the word, or scuffs or whatever, or if you have like a suit, that the suit starts at one color and ends at the next color.
Mm-hmm.
And again, basic colors are from like a lighter version to a darker, and then we can go absolutely bananas where we go like rainbow color, or like from one neon color to like another, even on more subtle ones, on pastel colors, having like a slight beige to like a bluish beige or something like that. Adds like a nice gradient. And all these things, as subtle as they may be, they add a lot of more depth to the character. Like one thing traditionally you run into with basic tinting is like one part just looks like a flat color, and it's really, really hard to go around that. And with using gradients and remapping them, that allows us to give it a lot more depth. That can be very involved, it can be very basic, and it kind of depends on how deep we want to go with each part. Actually, we can show an example on the helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Really basic one. If you look at the helmet, basic color, this is how a solid color would look like. And this is how a gradient would look like. And you can have like a basic gradient in there. You don't have to go for it. You can go for it. But that really multiplies the amount of possibilities. And a basic gradient on a helmet is like something really simple, to be fair. But that can be used in all kind of circumstances. And the amount of possibilities we have with that are pretty vast.
It's just crazy. It's insane. Like I will definitely be going for a gradient. That's for dang sure. Okay. Moving on to the next character, which is part of the Ooster faction, is basically robots. So I want to talk a little bit about the Ooster that you guys have shown recently at Breakpoint. What went into this? What's unique about Oosters to you guys? What are you guys implementing for Oosters? You talked a little bit at the start of you talked a little bit about it at the start of the episode, but I want to get in the weeds, because the Ooster was one of my favorite parts of the Breakpoint presentation. Were Oosters. I think they're super cool. Almost made me change my faction, but I'm loyal.
Yeah. Ooster are robots. They're very energy based. If you look closely, they have the core in the middle of the chest. That's part of the lore. That's basically their robot soul to some degree. That's where all the energy radiates from. For the trailer, we pumped them up a little. That is something you can do in the game but it's not going to be the default colors. They're going to be a little toned back. But when they communicate, when you say hi, when you're on a ship and you boost, you will see colors flaring up. And we're going to utilize the lights a lot. Basically, the user can become one with the ship, so to say,
That's
where
really
they
cool.
connect with the
That's
ship.
really
And
cool.
if you do actions with the ships, the lights are reacting appropriately. Now, there's still a lot to like implement there.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things, stay tuned till we can show it, but that's the basic philosophy behind them. And yeah, you can go in, choose your lights, your light patterns, and if you don't want to have many lights, you can turn it down all the way. Like some people voice, they love the lights and want to have them full cranked, like going Super Saiyan, and other ones have it preferred to be more subdued, and that's also going to be a possibility. And it's really, how you want to set up your character in the end.
Dude, that's fantastic, man. That's so fantastic. One of the things that um, I heard from a video, shout out to Metaverse Explorer here, is he was saying that he wanted a bigger robot. Like the Ooster that we showed was more humanoid. Are you guys working on other sized Oosters, and what are those looking like right now?
I think that's all we have to do. Just stay tuned. We're straight up working on all the characters. Actually, like we talked about that in prior before. How it works to get the characters in the game, and like a lot of our characters specifically look very humanoid, and that's a choice that we made. And most people probably are wondering, like, why you guys have so many crazy aliens? Why are you starting with the humanoids? It's very simple. We're starting from scratch as a project, and humans are to some degree the easiest to get going with, and don't require the biggest feature set. Like if you think about it, the Maries, like the head tails, are a fairly involved feature set. It's like, yeah, just like a head tail dangling around, nothing special. But then you get into things like, okay, when they're sitting in a car, where does the head tail go? What you don't want, that suddenly the head tail like flies outside the car and you see it like waving around or like freaks out. And the more head tails you get, the more complicated it gets. So these are all things we need to explore. We need to find solutions for. None of these things is rocket science. None of these things is super difficult in itself, but we have a lot of them.
Yeah.
And each character has like a lot of small problems that we have to solve. And once we have solved them, we carry them over to the next characters and build or pipeline up that way. Big Astor is a good example. How does he fit in a small spaceship?
That's a good question.
Like straight up, it's like he is massive. So
Yeah.
let's take the Lobby. Like the current Astor, the Maries, and the humans, they are different in scale, they are different in height, but they're close enough that they can use the same seats. Now you put a big Astor in there and they're like, oh, like hunched up if they can't even get in. So you have to think about like, hey, do we move the seats back? Do we have transformable seats? How are we dealing with that? Do we need complete new animations for that? Let's go the other way. If we have a Punap, they can't even reach the wheel. They're standing on the seat like this. And it's like, all right, what are we doing with that? And we're not even talking about the Photoli. So,
oh my God, the Photoli, yeah. Yeah.
These are things that sound completely mundane, but they're all problems that have to be solved to, hand the characters over to the players and to give the players an asset that actually works. And the last thing you want is like, we don't have a solution for something. You're sitting in the ship and the character goes to a T-pose because we don't have a fitting animation.
T-pose, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff. Same goes with everything else in the world. How do characters fit through doors? How big can they be so like all the spaceships have like doors that can fit through? Because we have some characters. I mean, the Punaps, the normal size Punaps are, I think they're like a meter tall. And the big Astor are like 2.20 or 2.30 plus a lot wider. So it's a lot of dimensions we have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
For example, if you're playing the small Punap, the tiny one, your camera is so low, suddenly you look at all the tables from the bottom.
How the heck is that thing gonna drive a ship? I have so many
Exactly.
questions. So many questions.
Exactly.
He's gonna need like 4 different booster seats.
Now we have a lot of solutions for that. We have a lot
I'm
of
sure.
ideas,
I'm sure.
but every single one, takes a moment to implement. Yeah, and over the course of time, we're adding to our feature set, we're adding to our capabilities, and again, we starting from scratch with this project. It's not like we, as a team, as a company, shipped like 2-3 games before, and we're able to build up a pipeline for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
We just don't have that luxury. So we're in the process of setting all these things up. Then again, once we have a feature, we like to use it everywhere. For example, Marie's Hat Tails allows us to use dangly bits. So we're starting to populate all characters with more dangly bits. Again, nothing that's rocket science, pretty straightforward, but it needs to work on all the characters, needs to work on multiplayer, with the customization. There's like a big red tail attached to that to really make sure it actually works and doesn't create any downstream issues.
Yeah, no, that totally makes
I'm
sense.
I'm getting quite inside baseball here, and everyone that like worked in the game and dealt with that, they know exactly what I'm talking
I'm
about.
sure. Yeah, no, I really enjoy like insight like this, and I'm sure other people do too. And it's things we never really think about as just regular players. Are things like you said, Marie's. They have a big tail. Are they just gonna sit on their tail? You should give them like a 1% chance of sitting on their tail. By the way. No, but seriously,
I like that.
Marie's, are they gonna sit on their tail? Are they gonna like whip their tail? Punabs, are they gonna have to sit on like 10 booster seats? Oosters, are they gonna turn into like an Iron Man suitcase and connect into the ship instead of like sitting on it? Like these are all like obviously, but none of those things are gonna happen. Everybody, this is just Dominic headcanon here, but. There's just unique problems. And
no,
like
no,
you
no.
said, they're not
You're
rocket
joking.
science, but yeah.
You're joking, but these are all possibilities we talk about. Like what makes most sense? What makes sense within the lore? Like, can the Oster transform their bodies to fit to certain things? Those are all things that are getting discussed. What a solution is going to be on all these ones, you will see. But it's
I'm excited, man.
You're solving a lot of like almost like real world problems. Like getting a basic character in the game just to render is pretty straightforward. Just getting the character to like show up and render in Unreal, that's all easy. But getting the character to like fully work and still look unique and be customizable and have all these things and perform on top of that. We're trying to get a lot of characters in at once. Don't forget about that. So there's a lot of angles we have to keep in mind. To keep it all playable and workable in the end.
Yeah. Cool, man. So we've gone through all 3 factions, the 3 different characters that are coming into 2.2, but there are different species that you guys are working on, and you touched on it a little bit, like the Punabs, which are small, like rat-like creatures. They're not rats. I just lack of a better word right now. There's the Sogmians, which I think are really cool. I really like the Sogmians, and then Fatoli, like you said. So, like, can you talk a little bit about maybe these other species and where those are at? Maybe not like specifically where they're at, but like just some hints.
Yeah, all these ones. We are working on the base setups right now, our basic implementations. We're not on the art side fully yet. Granted, we have a lot of really cool concepts that also give you guys like a really strong idea where we're heading with this. We have pretty much all these characters in the game running around. We internally can play with them. Some work better, some don't, but that's just part of development and just going to tighten up. And as we go through that, they're going to get better and better until we eventually, they get their turn where they get fully arted out and get handed over to the players.
Yeah. I think some of these characters are actually in experimental mode right now in the live client, and you can see like their darkened version. Nothing specific, of course, but you can see them and kind of get a hint of what they're at, which I think is really cool. Cool,
and
man.
All those ones, I think, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think most of these ones are already playable internally.
Ooh, I like that.
So
I like that.
Make out of that what you want. But we haven't forgotten about them, and we're working on all these guys to some capacity.
Yeah. I think people People underestimate how many characters there are going to be in Star Atlas. There's so many dang characters.
So many. Oh my god.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Tufa. There's so many different characters that will be in this universe. Good luck, Hano. You know what? Good luck, man. I'm sure that's going to be a good time.
Dude, it's a blast.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm sure it
blast.
is a blast. Actually, there's so many like unique species, and that's another thing that I really love about Star Atlas is that there's just so many different species, and they're all unique in their own way, and you can learn about them. There's a lot. I could go on a tangent here, but I'm not going to. Anyways, that's going to do it for episode 2 of Navigating Star Atlas. Like last time, we want to know your guys' thoughts. What did you guys think? What was your guys' favorite part of this episode? Did we miss a question that you wanted answered? And of course, who do you want to see next? Hano, thank you again for joining. Do you have anything last that you want to say?
Yes, of course. Big thanks to the whole character team. The guys have been putting a lot of work into this. They're extremely passionate about every single element, and it's an absolute blessing to work with these guys. They deserve a lot of credit, and hopefully we can get them on here sooner than later.
Yeah, man. We're definitely going to get a team roundtable. We're definitely going to get that going soon, promise. All right, guys. Well, like I said, thank you guys again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time for episode 3.
Thank you, guys.
See you, buddy.